The analysis in our report was actually that we need to take some fundamental steps to, I suppose, divert the potential rioter of tomorrow from that course of action. I mean, I cannot predict that they definitely will or will not happen, or indeed when they will happen again. But what we are clear in our, as I say, in our findings and our recommendations, that there are some deep-seated issues, some fundamental challenges that are brought to us by communities that we need to respond to. Well, a lot of our recommendations, we made 63 I think it was, actually won't cost any additional resource. A number of them actually are about how we can use our existing investment in public services, as well as harnessing the commitment of the private sector as well, to actually refocus our efforts. So it might well be about re-engineering, restructuring our approach. What we are saying though in some respects is that when the opportunity does arise, we want to put down a marker for some of the initiatives that we would like to have implemented to address the challenges that we identified. Well, I mean, we can flip that round, of course, actually, that the cost of not doing anything, you know, we're very good at counting the cost of failure, but actually success could mean a significant reduction in the cost of youth unemployment. There was a report out very recently that estimated over the next decade that the total economic costs of youth unemployment will be £28 billion, I believe it was. So a range of different figures, you know, the cost of a prison term, for example, the cost of somebody who's not in employment, education and training. We need to reduce that spend and redirect and reinvest that in some positive outcomes. Well, we visited 23 areas that had suffered from some form of rioting, looting and damage to property and threat to life. And actually what was really impressive was a number of aspects of how local government and police and other partners work. So really effective collaboration, for example, in the immediate build-up and aftermath of rioting, a really effective clear-up and recovery. We also saw, you know, members of the local communities getting together in spontaneous action from them, which is fantastic, and actually work with the most vulnerable, those who were at risk or were at risk of rioting. Effective communication from council officers to parents, for example, to keep young people indoors. So some good examples there. We had some recommendations about policing and some about how to make emergency plans more effective, but on the whole, I thought local government actually, in a very challenging set of circumstances, played well, or dealt with it effectively. In terms of our visits and talking to local government officers, talking to members of local communities and others, actually there were some occasions where individuals raised issues to do with public sector funding reductions, such as changes to education and maintenance allowance, or the potential for reduction in youth services, but that was by no means universal. I mean, the general view was actually the cuts hadn't caused the riots, and the example of the comment from a leading councillor was actually just a method of summing up that conclusion, which was the riots were not caused by the cuts, but it will make it much tougher to respond. I think we need to focus on, I mean, our work actually was to look at this through the prism of the views of communities and victims. And actually what they told us, Maury conducted a survey for us, was that actually I think around 66 or 67% of people felt there should be an appropriate balance between punishing criminality appropriately and also focusing on rehabilitation. And that's where we pitched our work, and that's where our thinking led us to our recommendations around reducing reoffending. Clearly, we don't condone criminality and there should be effective punishment, and actually I think people supported the fact that that was done swiftly in most cases, but we also now need to focus on how we rehabilitate some of well, not some of, all of those individuals. I think it's going to be difficult for anybody actually who's been convicted of an offence related to riots. I accept that. But of course actually the challenge we face is we can either let people serve relatively short-term sentences and then come back into communities and offend on multiple occasions, causing further damage and fracture to those neighbourhoods, or we can actually say, well, we need to look at how we can be more effective in rehabilitation. And that's not to condone it or to kind of mollycoddle individuals. It's actually about protecting communities, and that was our focus.